Hello guys, and welcome back to Reading Club. So today, I'm going to read you Daisy and the Trouble with Sports Day, Chapter 3 and Chapter 4. Chapter 3. It was Wednesday before Mrs. Peters told us which sports day races we would be in. She didn't tell us straight away. First of all, we had to do sports day rehearsals. The trouble with sports day rehearsals is it was a bit hot. Plus, I put my PE shirt on inside out without knowing, which was really annoying because no one told me when we ran out onto the field. It was really sunny on the field, even though it was still only the morning. Gabby said she really hoped she would be chosen to do the 60-meter sprint, which was really strange because so did I. Then she said she would like to do the multi-skills race as well, which was even stranger because I wanted to do the multi-skills race as well. In case you've never been in a sports day, 60-meter sprints are when you have to run as fast as you can for 60 meters and be the first one to get to the end. Multi-skills is when you have to throw a beanbag into a hoop, dribble a football, bounce a tennis ball on a tennis racket, put on a hat and a shirt, and then take them off, balance a beanbag on your head, and be the first one to get to the end. You have to be a really good athlete to do multi-skills. After Mrs. Peters had clapped her hands loudly a few times, we all sat in a circle on the grass. Mrs. Peters told us there would be 10 different sports day events to choose from, and that if we especially wanted to be in one, we should raise our hand high above our head when she read it out. I was so excited, I put my hand up straight away. But then I took it down really quickly because do you know what Mrs. Peters said next? I couldn't believe it, and neither could Gabby. Just as me and Gabby were totally about to get into the zone, Mrs. Peters took a pen and a piece of paper out of her tracksuit top pocket and said that everyone in the class would be able to compete in one event only. One event only, starting with the sack race. The trouble with sack races is it's really hard to run fast when your legs are in a sack. Plus, it's really easy to fall over. So no one put their hand up. So Mrs. Peters said, foam javelin. The trouble with foam javelins is they're made of foam, which isn't a proper metal, which means they're not like proper spears, so no one put their hand up. So Mrs. Peters said, shot put. The trouble with shot puts is the ones in our PE cupboard are made of foam too. Plus, they don't even go as far as a foam javelin or a foam dixis. Not even with the wind behind you. So no one put their hands up. So Mrs. Peters said 60-meter sprint. The trouble with saying 60-meter sprint is I was still thinking about foam when Mrs. Peters said it. By the time I put my hand up, everyone had their hand up. Mrs. Peters said it wouldn't be possible for everyone in the class to do the 60-meter sprint, especially as there were 2 other classes in our year that will be racing with us too. So she said multi-skills instead. The moment Mrs. Peters said multi-skills, I put my hand straight up into the air as fast as a rocket and waved it as high as I could. Trouble is, so did everyone else. So I tried to get my hand even higher, but so did everyone else. So I tried to lift my bottom up off the grass while I was still cross-legged, but so did everyone else. The trouble with lifting your bottom up off the grass when you're cross-legged is it makes you lose your balance, especially if you're waving one hand really high in the air at the same time. So I fell over, and so did everyone else. Chapter 4. It took Mrs. Peters about 5 minutes to get everyone untangled and back into a circle. I think we could have untangled faster, but some people were definitely tangling on purpose, especially Jack Beatrizel and Harry Bayless. Once, Mrs. Peters had told Jack and Harry off for tangling on purpose and made them sit on opposite sides of the circle. She said that if we couldn't volunteer for sports day events without all putting our hands up at the same time, then she would have to choose our events for us, starting with Harry and Jack, who would be serving cream teas to parents if they weren't careful. The trouble with serving cream teas to parents is it isn't a proper sports day thing at all. You don't get to run or throw anything at all. I don't think you even get a sticker. Harry and Jack were really well behaved after that, even during our warm-up. The trouble with warm-ups is you have to do them before you can get to do proper racing, even if the sun is really hot and you're warm enough already. Mrs. Peters told us that warm-ups are the most important parts of any athlete's race preparations because they loosen up your muscles and get your heart pumping. I didn't really want to do warm-ups at all. I just wanted to go straight onto the racing bit, but we didn't have any choice. First of all, we had to do stretching. The trouble with stretching is it really stretches you, especially if you do really stretchy stretches. My stretches were far more stretchy than Mrs. Peters. In fact, no one did stretches as stretchy as me, which meant by the time I'd done my stretchiest stretch, my legs were really aching, especially the backs of my knees. After we'd done stretching, we had to do running on the spot. The trouble with running on the spot is you don't go anywhere, so you can't tell how fast you're going. I must have gone really, really fast because by the time I'd stopped running, I was really, really out of puff. Gabby said if I had paced myself during the warm-up, I would still have had some energy left for the actual rehearsals. But I said if we wanted to get picked for our favorite races, we had to get straight into the zone. The first race we rehearsed was the hurdles. The trouble with hurdles is the hurdles get in the way when you're running, which is why I came fifth. The second race we rehearsed was the space hoppers. The trouble with space hoppers is sometimes they bounce sideways instead of forward, which is why I came sixth. The third race we rehearsed was the obstacle race. The trouble with obstacle races is there are loads of obstacles in the way, which is why I came last. I was actually quite pleased when we rehearsed the foam javelin because it gave me a chance to get my breath back. Trouble is, every time I let go of my javelin, the sun got in my eyes. Plus, I think the wind might have been blowing the wrong way, too. Anyway, I didn't do very well in that either, or the foam discus. When I went back to the running track to get ready for the 6-meter sprint, the ache in the back of my knees had gone all the way up to my arms. That's the trouble with throwing things made of foam. It makes your shoulders come out of their armholes. There were 8 girls in my 60-meter sprint rehearsal. I was in lane 3. Fiona Tucker was in lane 1. Stefani Breakspear was in lane 2. Jasmine Smart was in lane 4. Nihishta Bagwat was in lane 5. Paula Potts was in lane 6. Liberty Pierce was in lane 7. And Vicky Caro was meant to be in lane 8. But she was being silly again. I was easily the fastest girl out of all of us, so I was sure I was going to win. Trouble is, just before Mrs. Peters said, "Go," I realized my shirt was inside out, which made me get out of the zone. The trouble with being out of the zone is it makes your legs stop running as fast as they can run, and it makes your shoelaces come undone, which is why I came 7th. I beat Vicky Caro by about 40 meters, but I'm not sure she really understood what sprint means. Gabby said she reckoned I'd definitely done too much stretching and running on the spot during our warm-ups, and she was sure I'd do better in the multi-skills. Trouble is, we never got a chance to find out because we ran out of time, which was really annoying because I just done my shoelaces up into a double knot. Mrs. Peters said she was very sorry we had to stop, but we only had an hour to practice in, and it was time to go in for lunch. Then she said that if we had all sat in a circle nicely in the first place instead of rolling around on the grass and tangling on purpose, we might have had time to do the multi-skills race, as well as all the other events we hadn't had time to do, which was totally Jack Beatristle and Harry Bealis's fault. So that's the end of this channel. I hope you enjoyed my readings of it, and if you did, please click many likes and subscribe Reading Club. So I'll come back later with a new and improved channel. Bye everybody!